Thanks for stopping by. Today we're looking at Karateka for the Nintendo Famicom, released by Soft Pro International back in 1985. We'll start this video off with me playing Karateka, or Karateka, for the first time. I just started recording this as soon as I popped it in. I figured it was a good idea. This is me happily playing a new game and running along the shoreline to my first enemy. That's the throat punch that ends my game. The original version of Karateka was released by Broderbund and the Apple II the year prior. Ultimately, this game was released on close to a dozen systems, more than a dozen if you count the fewer of the modern remakes that are floating around. The original version of this game actually never got an official United States NES release. Just this version for the Famicom, which was in Japan. You can get a modern aftermarket custom NES cartridge made these days if you really want it. And I actually saw somebody made a custom manual in English too. I thought that was kind of clever. But that's pretty hardcore, and I'm not that dedicated. I just don't know why they wouldn't release this game stateside. It seems plenty good enough for a United States release. I think it also would have sold pretty well. Definitely it's better than a fair amount of the NES games that I've played. In Karateka, you play an unnamed martial arts expert fighting his way to rescue a princess. It's a pretty simple premise overall, I think, but it gets you into a game fighting. The game here is you basically running through a level and stopping to fight enemies along the way. They're going to come at you one at a time, and occasionally they're going to throw in a bird to shake up things, which I kind of hate that when it happens. You have two phases with your character. When you start, you just press your directional to run. When you stop, you can press down and you'll get into your fighting stance. Up, of course, gets you out of the stance. When you're ready to fight, A is going to kick and B is going to punch. If you use A or B with up and down and pressing forward, you can also punch high and low, so you get a total of 6 different offensive moves here you can use to defeat your enemies. You move slower in your fighting stance, of course, so you're going to have to get used to switching out of your stance and running right after you defeat somebody in a battle. You're going to want to get as far as you can along the stage before the next fighter appears. I believe if you wait, they're going to continually fire enemies to get you. You need to be careful running, of course. Remember the first shot of the game I showed you. There it is. 3 seconds of running and I'm blasted in the Adam's apple. Remember that. Pay attention. Very nice. Karateka is not the fastest of games in regards to fighting, and it's probably going to feel a little bit limited with so few offensive moves. But there are certainly strategies that tend to work with certain enemies on different stages. As you would imagine, things get tougher the further you progress into this fortress. If you get hurt, you can back off from a fight, and that will actually help you regain health. But when you do this, enemies recover as well, so it's not a way to skate through levels. I think the way the characters move in this one are its biggest strength. Avatar movements are relatively smooth and fluid, whether you're running or fighting. I guess there was a lot of work focused on making these animations work apparently, and I think it paid off. It really did. Looks great. You're always moving from left to right though, one direction, and I'm happy to say at least the environments change as you advance through the sections, which is great. As you defeat the different guards in advance, you're going to eventually encounter these short cutscenes every time the boss sends a new fighter along to take care of you. It's a nice break from the standard side-to-side movement, and the enemies for the most part are mostly the same, but they do get different colored uniforms and different masks along the way, so it's not complete monotony. You get a basic music track, nothing too amazing, and you get standard fighting sound effects. There's also the rush of the ocean in the background on the first level, which is nice enough. I feel like there's plenty of repetition here for sure, but it doesn't feel too offensive to me, and overall this is a decent experience. It's really decent to the point where it really makes me wonder why it didn't come to the US. I have a few Famicom games that do fall into this category. Games that would have done really well stateside, like Spy vs. Spy 2 or B-Wings. Great games. They would have done well, but here we are. I have to say I'm certainly glad that I found this game. I'm going to have to give some of the other releases of this game a try from the different systems. Atari, Commodore 64, that sort of stuff. I have pretty easy access to those, so it'll be interesting to compare them. The Famicom has 2 buttons to play with. Those other systems only have 1, so I'm interested to see how that's going to play out. Well, that's all I have today for Karateka for the Famicom. Thanks for stopping by to take a look, and hope to catch you on another video.